Hey, what is going on guys? It's Reaction FPS, and in today's video I am going to be showing a full comprehensive guide on how to optimize Bo6 for the best performance possible. In this video we are going to be optimizing Bo6 for the best FPS, lowest input lag, graphics quality, and network connection so that you can have the best performance possible. This guide will cover Bo6 in-game optimization graphic settings, Windows optimization settings, and finally, network optimization settings. Also, I just want to say before we get into the guide, sorry if it is hard to hear me at times or understand what I am saying at times. I just had affected wisdom tooth removed and it is hard to talk at times in the video. So yeah, I do apologize for that. So firstly, we are going to cover graphic settings. The reason we are covering graphic settings first is that I want to start off in the game so that we could have a streamlined approach to the optimization and start off with the most obvious places to optimize first, which is of course the game settings, as this is going to have the biggest impact on your performance in the game. In the graphic settings, we're going to be tackling the display quality as well as the quality tab for graphics effects itself, and also settings to help maximize FPS as well as improve visual quality. So without further ado, let's get into the graphic settings. Hey, what is going on guys, it's Reaction FPS, and in this part of the guide we are going to be taking a look at graphic settings for the best visibility and FPS within the game of Black Ops 6. Firstly, we are going to start with display mode. I run full screen exclusive because this tends to give me the best results out of all the other options. I tend to have the lowest input latency and highest FPS when utilizing this setting as compared to full screen borderless or windowed, and I genuinely think that this setting is the best if you want to have the maximum performance that you can possibly have. This setting is very minor compared to the rest, but combined with all the other settings, it does add up to help shape the experience into the best performing experience you could possibly have. For the display monitor, I obviously have this set at my monitor, so what you want to do is you always want to have this set to your primary monitor, aka the monitor that you would use to play your games on normally. For display adapter, I am running a RTX 4080 Super. For you, this may be different. This may be a 4070, 4060, 4090, or even one of the 50 series cards, or of course AMD GPUs as well, and in rare instances, Intel GPUs. So I want to make one thing clear with this setting is that if you're in a laptop, this may be different, as you might have an iGPU selected. What I mean by an iGPU is an integrated GPU. This is a small graphics processing unit that is located within the CPU simply to provide a visual or video output to the laptop screen. In this case, if you have that selected, your performance will be very bad as those things are not dedicated graphics card and do not have enough VRAM to properly run games. In this instance, what you have to do is you have to click on the slider or the drop down menu on this option and select your dedicated graphics card. In this case, this will either be a AMD graphics card, a NVIDIA graphics card, or in rare instances, a Intel graphics card. So set this to your dedicated graphics card. For screen refresh rate, you obviously want to have this as the highest refresh rate that your monitor is capable of. In my instance, that is 144 Hz. Yes, I know that is quite low. I will be upgrading soon. For display resolution, you want to have this ideally at your native resolution. So if you're running a 1080p monitor, you would want to have this set to 1080p. If you are running a 1440p monitor, you would obviously want to have that set to 1440p. And in rare instances, if you are running a 4K monitor, you would want to have that set to 4K, obviously. For aspect ratio, I have my own set to automatic, but to be more elaborate, I know that this is set to 16:9, which is the native aspect ratio of my monitor and most other monitors. If you have a ultra wide screen monitor, that will be 21:9 or even bigger, 32:9. So yeah, but in most instances, automatic will do just fine, or if you want to set it personally for yourself, just choose your monitor's native aspect ratio. For display gamma, I have this on 2.2 sRGB default. I leave this at default. NVIDIA reflex low latency. You obviously want to have this on or on plus boost. What this does is that it helps get rid of CPU bottlenecks by maintaining a balance between the CPU and GPU, preventing CPU bound instances that could cause a reduction of FPS and an increase in input latency. This is especially apparent if you have a system that is unbalanced. In more specific terms, a system that has a CPU that cannot keep up with the GPU, and this normally results in very high CPU usage, stutters, very bad 1% lows, and low FPS. This happens because your CPU cannot keep up with your GPU. Eco mode, I leave this on default. VSync gameplay, you need this off. The reason you need this off is because if you have this on, it will cap your FPS to your monitor's refresh rate and add a significant amount of input lag. Custom frame rate limit, I have this on unlimited. If you want, you could use custom and cap it with that. For me, I prefer unlimited as this allows me to get the best FPS I can get while also having the input lag set to a minimum or operate at a minimum. Render resolution, native pause game rendering off, reduce quality when inactive off, focus mode 0. Yeah, those settings, it doesn't really matter, but custom frame rate and VSync gameplay, those must be on one unlimited, and for VSync gameplay, absolutely off, always off. Never put that setting on. It will completely ruin your experience. So that concludes that part of the video discussing the display tab in graphic settings. However, even though that part of the video is done, I do want to take this time to discuss settings that you need to have either enabled or disabled, as the settings in there, as they might be few, they do significantly impact your experience in terms of achieving high FPS and the low lag your PC can possibly output for you. So the first setting I want to discuss is custom frame rate. For the highest possible FPS you want to achieve, you obviously need this on unlimited. If you want to have your FPS capped, just set this to custom and insert the desired FPS numbers that you want. Examples, 120, 144, 240, or 300, even though 300 is the max. Fall in that category and you want your FPS capped, just follow that guideline. For the people that want unlimited FPS, obviously just set it to unlimited and your PC will allocate most of the resources from your CPU and GPU and output the highest possible FPS that your PC can output. Of course, this will differ from PC to PC, and FPS values will differ as some PCs are simply more powerful than others and some are simply weaker than others. The next setting is NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency. You obviously want this on or on plus boost, as this significantly reduces input lag. I would say, in my opinion, that there is a significant difference between having this off or on plus boost, and you definitely want this off. For the other setting, which is VSync, you obviously want to have this off. You never want to have this on, as VSync caps your FPS but also introduces a significant amount of input lag, and in my opinion it makes the game very unplayable. Please leave VSync off at all times. But yeah, that's it for that part of the video. Let's move on to quality and graphic settings. Now we are on the quality tab. In simple terms or straightforward terms, I am just going to say I use everything on very low. So basically the lowest setting. The reason I use everything on the lowest setting is because this tends to give me the best FPS, obviously, as the GPU and CPU don't have to work as hard. And as well, it also gives me very good clarity, as there's not much foliage and effects going on the screen that can help prevent my visibility, such as particle effects and also stuff like shadows and shading, which can make certain areas of the map look very dark and make it very hard to see enemies, like an example, a corner or a dark room. So yeah, that's why I use everything on very low. But if you want to have a balance between FPS and good visibility, then I will show you the settings that I would use if I was going for that type of experience. So first of all, upscaling and sharpening is a very powerful tool in this, as depending on your GPU, you'll have access to either NVIDIA DLSS or AMD FSR. These are the upscaling methods that both of these graphics card manufacturers use. So in my case, I would be using a NVIDIA graphics card, so I would use NVIDIA DLSS. What this does is it essentially takes a low resolution image and upscales it to a higher resolution. So if you have a 1440p monitor, you can essentially take a 1080p image and upscale it to 1440p. The advantage of this is that it allows for the image to be rendered at a lower resolution and upscale to a higher resolution, given the illusion that it is 1440p. And this technology has gotten so good to the point where it has almost become indistinguishable. You could notice it, but you have to look very hard to see it. So if you are using a NVIDIA graphics card and you are playing at resolutions like 1440p or 4K, these resolutions are obviously a bit harder to drive than 1080p, especially 4K. You would want to use DLSS performance. This will give you really good frames as well as really good image quality. And then you have DLSS quality. You'll also get better performance, but this setting would also prioritize quality, so you get a higher level of quality within your image. Same thing goes for AMD FSR. I'm not too familiar with the FSR side, but the same rules would apply. Frame generation, you want to have this off. This essentially inserts fake frames into the game. Same thing goes for NVIDIA DLSS frame generation off. VRAM scale target, I have mine set to 70. Variable rate shading, you want to have this to on. This actually gives you more FPS. I just have this off because I am extremely accustomed to playing on these settings, so I tend not to change it. As they say, if it's not broken, why fix it? Or whatever that means. Well, I know what it means, but you understand. Okay. Texture resolution, I would say to put this on normal. This would give you a balance between performance and visual quality. This essentially scales the textures in the game to have more detail on them. So, for example, the textures on your gun, the textures on your ground, the textures on objects, they would all be scaled to whatever option you decide to use here. I recommend normal, or if you have a better PC, high. But for most instances, I would say normal, as there's not much difference between a high and normal, in my opinion. I have this set to low. Depth of field obviously off. Detail quality for me is on low. Particle resolution very low. Bullet impacts off. Persistent effects off. Shader quality low. On-demand texture streaming, leave this on minimal. Local texture streaming quality low. Shadow quality very low. Screen place reflections off. Occlusion and screen space lighting off. Screen space reflections off. Static reflection quality low. Tessellation off. Volumetric quality low. Deferred physics quality off. Weather grid volumes quality off and water quality off. So yeah, those are the settings that I would use if I wanted to go for a more visually enlightening experience. Now we are on to view. I have this personally set to off. I never use this, but some people do. I don't have enough experience with it, so I can't give an opinion on it. But if you guys use this and have success with it, keep using it. I wouldn't say change it. Field of view, I have mine on 120, but I do recommend a value between 97 to 110, as most pros play on this value, and you still get the benefits of extended peripheral vision, as well as being able to see enemies at long range between that FOV range. I have 120 because I am accustomed to it. ADS field of view, affected. You must have this unaffected. The other one is independent. Independent essentially keeps your ADS FOV at a fixed value, and I think that is either 90 or 65. That setting essentially minimizes your ability to see enemies around you to a much greater degree. ADS field of view affected, you want to have this unaffected, as this will keep the field of view FOV on your hipfire and the ADS field of view FOV, your ADS, the same. So those two FOVs will be 1-to-1, and when you ADS, you will have essentially the same FOV and same sensitivity as your hipfire. So everything will feel very 1-to-1 and responsive. Field of view for weapon, I have this on default. However, I do recommend putting it on wide. A lot of people do play on wide, and wide is very good. So if you want, you should put it on wide, but you can't go wrong with default, as default is narrow. But if you want the extra FOV, put it on wide. Doesn't hurt to. Third person field of view, 90. Vehicle field of view, default. World motion blur obviously off, you don't want this on. Weapon motion blur obviously off. First person camera movement 100%. Third person camera movement also on default 100%. Third person ADS transition. Third person ADS. Inverted flashbang, you could have this on or off. This essentially puts a black screen instead of a white screen if you have this on. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, those are my settings. In the next part of the video, we are going to be covering the Windows settings, and these fall under disabling the background apps in Windows to free up more RAM and put less strain on the CPU, and also and finally network settings for a better internet connection and better latency between you and the game servers. Welcome to the Windows settings part of the guide. In this part of the video, we are going to be optimizing Windows for the best performance in the game of Black Ops 6, as well as other games that you may play, as this is universal performance for every application and game that you may play. So the first thing we are going to start with is disabling background apps in Windows, as Windows does have a lot of background bloatware type apps that run in the background and just eat resources for absolutely no reason. These apps are just bloatware and they are almost never used, so I do in fact recommend turning that off. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So firstly, we are going to go into privacy settings, and then we are going to scroll down here and we are going to go to background apps. And you see this tab here, you want to have this set to off, and when you put this to off, all these applications will be disabled from running in the background. And believe me, this will help with your PC's performance quite a lot, because these apps tend to eat specifically a lot of CPU usage and a lot of RAM, especially RAM, because they just tend to run in random access memory all the time when you have this enabled. So I definitely recommend turning this off, as it helps a lot with performance. Now we are on to network settings. In this part of the video, we are going to be optimizing the network settings on your computer for the best in-game latency and ping possible, as well as internet speeds for the game of Black Ops 6 and also other applications that you may use. This will just help speed the internet connection on your computer a lot quicker by erasing any possible bottlenecks and hiccups that you may have with connecting to servers. But essentially what we are going to do is we're going to set a static DNS. This helps especially with the consistency of internet speed, as well as the consistency of server response time, aka the time you take to connect to the server. Connecting to the server is very important, especially with a game, because you want to have a good connection to the Call of Duty servers for the best ping and latency possible. This setting especially helps with people who don't have the fastest internet connection. So people who are on lower speeds, like let's say between 50 to 100 Mbps. This can help a lot. For people who are above 100 Mbps, 200 Mbps, and above that, you may not really notice a difference, as your internet is already very good. But for people who are less fortunate in the department of a good internet connection, this can definitely help. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to go to control panel. Then we are going to go to network and internet, network and sharing center, change adapter settings, and we're going to select the adapter that you're using. If you're using Wi-Fi, you would select Wi-Fi. As you can see, I'm not using Wi-Fi, but I'm using Ethernet. So in this case, we're going to select Ethernet. So you essentially are going to select whatever you are using. We're going to click on properties. We are going to click on Internet Protocol version 4, TCP/IPv4. And then we are going to go down here. For you, this setting will be set to obtain DNS server automatically. For this tutorial, you're going to use the following DNS server address. So select that, and then you're going to input these lines of numbers in each of these rows. So 8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. This is Google's DNS. It is one of the fastest DNS, and I have had the most success with this DNS, as it helps with my internet connection a lot in terms of consistency as well as server response time, and it also helps with my NAT type. I'm not sure how this exactly influences NAT type, but normally without this, my NAT type would be moderate. But with this DNS, when I started using it like 5 years ago, it was open on both my PC and PS4, as well as other PCs that I had in the past. It helps a lot. And if you don't want to use Google's DNS, you could also use Cloudflare's DNS, which is 1.1.1.1. And then for the second row, it is 1.0.0.1. So yeah, that is it for the internet settings. So guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this video could help you in some way, shape, or form. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section, as well as if you want me to cover anything else, as well as ways I can make the video and content better, please let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, that's it for the video. Peace out and have a great day.